Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. How are you? Welcome to my Takeout, my Emil Amok's Takeout. The audio, or maybe video if you're watching on YouTube, our point joint. You point at things and we talk about different things, or the issues of our lives, right? I was not going to do something today. I thought, oh, I'll wait till Tuesday. But so much stuff has happened. Over the weekend, we had a Kentucky Derby horse. No one got killed, thank goodness. You aren't supposed to be betting on the Kentucky Derby, but journalism lost. If you were betting on journalism, it lost. But the horse that won, uh, Sovereignty, if you're betting on names, Sovereignty should be a reminder to at least one person who is the president of the United States that sovereignty rules. Ukraine should win. Ukraine is better than Russia. Sovereignty, the importance of sovereignty. I mean, maybe he was paying attention. I don't know. Anyway, you shouldn't have been watching. They had a huge handle. That means a lot of people bet. I think it's because all the betting services, not because people are interested in horse racing. And you shouldn't be interested in horse racing. I used to be interested in horse racing, but then I got sense knocked into me. It's cruel to the horses. And isn't it funny that a sport where they had to ban one of the Hall of Fame trainers, that the NBC finally they had to admit that, oh, Bob Baffert was a guy who was banned from Churchill Downs for at least, I think, 2 years for using illegal substances. Not him, but the horse. Oh, he can use all the illegal substances he wants. It's the horses he was using it on. And it was interesting to see the apologies NBC was coming up with. Anyway, I mention it only because I thought it was unique that, given where we are in history, where Ukraine is fighting off after 3 years, Russia, United States is trying to broker a peace, and it's siding more with Russia than Ukraine. The message from the Kentucky Derby winner is sovereignty is important. It's got to be. And then, of course, I want to talk about the Dubs, the Warriors, and I'll talk about that a little later. But first, I want to mention the fact that I am performing my my Amok monologues. Not these. This is Emil talking in his closet, in front of the T-shirt of San Guillermo and the Philippine gong. This is something I do just as a kind of like people go to, the gym, work out and talk about stuff. My show is a show. I'm doing something at the Monday Night Marsh, which is a great little program they do at the Marsh in San Francisco. Monday the 12th, that's a week from today, and then Monday the 17th. I'm just doing the open. I'm just going up there and opening up. They let people in, all the people who pay their money and people who don't. They come in, they're there to see other performers, other acts, and then I just get thrown in as the warm-up, to try out some stuff for things that I will be bringing to the fringe festivals that I'm participating in North America in the summertime. So come see me, Monday Night Marsh. It's at 1062 Valencia Street in San Francisco. All right, it'll be fun. You get me, and you get at least two other people telling stories and doing a show, and it's always great at the Marsh in San Francisco. All right, so now I almost forgot about this on Sunday. When May comes around, I'm always thinking about Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which is what it's called now. It used to be just called Asian American Heritage Month or APA Month. It's important because the group is important. We need, just like in politics, right? It is a political thing. But the idea is coalition, coming together, right? And if you're Asian, coming together in coalition We're like 25, 26 million strong. We represent a force in America. And it's more than just about diversity. It's a political thing. And, if the Republicans were wise, they would tap into the fact that a lot of Asians tend to be conservative, and they'd say, yeah, we don't mind, Asian American diversity or Latino diversity. Same thing with the Latinos. The Republicans, if they're smart, they say, hey, a lot of their cultural values are the same as white conservative cultural values, and they wouldn't blanch at the idea of diversity, but they do. And that's a problem. Anyway, Joe Biden came in when he came into office as president. He made Asian American Heritage Month. He turned it into an all-inclusive thing. Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which is a mouthful, and it's great. But what did Donald Trump do when he got rid of the White House AANHPI website? So I don't even know if he's celebrating, but I celebrate it every May. It's like, oh, this is our month of Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander heritage. And then I think about all the dates that go in, that the reason why May is the month. It's not just because of selected at random. It's because in May, it was the day the first Japanese immigrant came into the United States. Those Japanese immigrants were later interned during World War II. Generations later, but because the first Japanese came in like 1840 something. It was also the time of the Chinese Exclusion Act, May 1898. That's when they signed the Japanese Exclusion Act. It was also a day in May when the Golden Spike that connected East and West, right? The railroads. And who built the railroads? The Chinese Americans who were here. So there's lots of reasons why May is our month, but I remember it because of my cousin Stefan. And I almost forgot about it. I was sitting around on Sunday morning, and I remember that Sunday morning when I heard, because it was Saturday going into Sunday morning. It was in 2014 when I get this call from my sister. It was on May 3rd. And she told me that Stefan had been shot and killed. He was murdered. I lived in San Francisco in this modest part of Mission Street downtown. Lived on the 5th floor of an apartment building there. Got off on the 3rd. After a few drinks, apartment hallways all look the same early in the morning. Only this time, Stefan actually tried to get into the wrong apartment. I mean, not violently, although he probably might think, let me in, or I wasn't there. But he was shot and killed with a single bullet. And the apartment resident who shot him turned himself in, spent 3 nights in jail, and then the SFPD and the district attorney let him go. And I tried to make as much noise as I could at the time, because it just sounded like we have the killer. We have a body. There's a murder. Why don't you prosecute? And it's not that easy because of California's law. It's a version of stand your ground, something called the Castle Doctrine, which gives the right of self-defense to any home dweller with a gun who feels threatened by an intruder. So I tried to make a case out of this. I said, people need to know about this law, that people can be killed on accident, and that you can be like Stefan, but the guy who shot Stefan shouldn't just be let go. At the very least, maybe not first-degree murder, maybe second-degree murder, maybe manslaughter, something. But there was no political will to challenge California's law. No one wanted to fight for my cousin. And it was like, hey, wrong place, wrong time, right? Now, since then, 2014, it's been 9 years. There's been a lot of times when things like this happen in real life. They show up in the news. I remember 2023, in less than a week, 7 people were shot. One fatally, all from being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And one case involved a 16-year-old African-American kid named Ralph Yarl. He went to pick up his siblings at a family friend's home, rather. He went to the wrong address. And there, an 84-year-old guy heard the doorbell, grabbed his gun, saw a black kid, thought he was trying to break in, shot him once in the head and the arm, and said, "Don't come around here." Lester, his name was Andrew Lester, charged with first-degree assault. And even though Missouri has a stand your ground law, they weren't scared to stand up for the 16-year-old who was shot, Ralph Yarl. Just this year, 2025, in February, Lester pled guilty to a felony in the 2nd degree. He was awaiting sentencing, could have carried 7 years in prison, but as he waited, he died this past March. Yarl, his family, was sympathetic about Lester's death, but they say there still has been no justice. And the one saving grace is that Yarl, the then 16-year-old, survived the shooting. And that is probably the best thing to have happened, because Yarl is alive. If you go into the wrong place and get shot, if you survive, that's the best outcome, because you can't rely on justice to be there for you. So my regret is that no officials in San Francisco were willing to challenge the California law for Stefan. And I've been thinking about this since 2014. Great for Yarl, great for others, but I don't know how the other cases, there were some other cases where people have been, if they were shooters in situations like that, some cases they're let go, some cases they're prosecuted. Lester in Missouri was prosecuted. I wish that happened to my cousin Stefan. But then I think about all the things about May, all the things that we remember in Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And this kind of treatment of Asians in America, nothing new. You think about Chinese who were lynched throughout California in the 19th century. You think about Filipinos who were beaten and lynched, shot in the 1920s and 1930s in California, from the Central Valley to the Central Coast in Watsonville. You think about all this. My father was in that group of Filipinos in California in the 1920s. And you think about how his grandnephew, an immigrant, almost 100 years later, just dreaming of the same things that my father was, legally murdered. That's what it is. He was legally murdered. So I honor Stefan. I tell his story, at least on his weekend in May, because his story is a modern version of our Asian American experience, part of a pattern that we try to remember and break all at the same time. It's not our heritage, it's our history. We don't have to relive it. We try not to relive it. But with knowledge and understanding, we can try to do something about it and not repeat the tragedies of the past. Anyway, this is what I think about when you say Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I think about my cousin Stefan. And of course, when I say Stefan, I think of Stephen Curry. And they say their name the same way. They're Steffens. And Stefan was a sports fan. He was a Giants fan. He loved Tim Lincecum. I think he buried him in his Tim Lincecum jersey. But he was also a Stephen Curry fan. He loved Stephen Curry. And I want to transition into talking about the Warriors because in some way I am embarrassed that I was so into the game. Now I used to go to the games. I have friends who still go to the games. They've got season tickets or they're members of the press. That's how I used to go to the games as a member of the press, and I'd cover them. And they're great, at the Warrior games, people come from Asia to watch the Warriors during the regular season and during the playoffs. They used to come to Oracle. That's when I covered the Warriors, when they were at Oracle, not at Chase. But I've been watching the Warriors ever since I was a little boy, watching them in the Civic Center, now the Bill Graham Auditorium. They used to play basketball there. And I'd see with Rick Barry and Nate Thurman, the Warriors. I love the Warriors. And all throughout their championships, love the Warriors. But I was nervous about yesterday. Game 7, the Warriors, I was hoping, Johnny Kuminga, yeah, maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll get some time. Maybe he'll show up and be the secret weapon. Part of me, I must admit, I harbored those feelings. And then, you ask my family, I was terrible. I was pacing, waiting for the game to start, yelling at the TV. I mean, that's why you watch the games at home, right? Because if you do that as a real fanatic in the arena, then you look too normal. But at home, when everyone else is normal, they're saying, Emil's really into this game. Yes, I'm really into this game. Now, I was ashamed of myself because, every time the Warriors would mess up, and Johnny Kuminga coming off the bench, throwing the ball away, missing a layup. The Dubs missed too many layups. So those are high percentage shots. They turn them into low percentage shots. And yet, the miraculous Buddy Hield, heaving up threes from everywhere. And then that 42-footer at the end, there was hope. I said there was hope. And Buddy Hield, he was the great hope because Stephen Curry was good, but he was hounded. I think he had one basket in the first half. He was winning in the other ways, right? That's what they like to say. He can win in other ways, so many ways. And they weren't down. I mean, I think they had a small lead, right? They had a small lead at halftime. Or they're down by just something. It was close. Still a close game. But that in the NBA, there's no pad. It's possession to possession. It's like when you watch playoff baseball, it's pitch by pitch. In playoff basketball, it's possession by possession. And then you break it down even further. It's like dribble to dribble. And are you putting pressure? Do you got a hand up there? Do you got a hand in the face? Are you blocking a ball? It's anxiety ridden to watch a game, right? It's not fun. And then they start pulling away and Buddy Hield comes through. He heaves 9 3-pointers and all hail Buddy Hield. You always want Buddy Hield to be great. The Warriors play 6 people and the starters scored all but 3 of their points in their victory yesterday. And I felt embarrassed at the end. I mean, you watch the game, all anxiety ridden, and then you watch the post game stuff, right? You watch the post game stuff because then you can enjoy the game. Oh, you know the end. You know the outcome. You can appreciate what everyone did. You watch the highlights. Oh, great. You watch the post game, that Charles Barkley does, where he has to eat his words because he said the Rockets going to win. You watch all the other analysts who said the Rockets going to win, and they didn't, and you gloat, via the television, but you're gloating, and then you watch the homers on the Warriors post game show, and they go on for an hour talking about your team, and it's great. It's great. And then I apologize to my family for just being so pro Warrior. Sunday afternoon, and then I thought about why this was important. Why spending 3-4 hours of your life on a Sunday was important rooting for the Warriors. It's because if you've ever played sports in junior high, high school, or college, if you've ever played sports, if you've ever had to be a team, or when you were the star or people relied on you, or when you weren't the star and you were relied on because it's not a stars game, it's a team game. And you realize that. And I played basketball, and, I say this, ironically, basketball was my worst sport. And not because I'm not like 6'5" or 10. It was my worst sport because I didn't get the game. I would have been like Johnny Kuminga out there, passing into people and losing the ball and fouling out within the first 5 minutes because I was a hacker. I was hacking people and I was a scrambler. I was like Guy Santos, right? I just like running all over the place, trying to use my energy. I had no skill in basketball, but I was really good in football, and I was really good in baseball, and really good in soccer. And on those teams when I was the one everyone looked to, I know I had a role to lift up everyone else because you can't win as one person alone, you win as a team. So when you watch the Warriors and how they won on Sunday, it reminds you, or reminded me, of the battle, of the game, of playing when the stakes were high, a championship, a playoff. It just reminded me of the importance of those moments and what you had to do to reach the heights of your ability and to raise up the level of the ability of your team that would then get to a championship or then get to a victory that would ultimately, with a number of games strung together, a championship. And I was very fortunate. I won championships in baseball as a younger player, championships in soccer, championships, not in football. I was not a football champion. But boy, we tried. We tried. And I was MVP, a couple of youth league teams. And like I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at what level. If you are playing at your level, youth league, high school, college, semi-pro, pro, whatever level the gods allow you to participate, you remember what it takes and you remember what it means to be in competition. And it's not about the glory, personal, individual glory. It's about what you do as a team. And those are the lessons. That's why we spend so much time watching sports. It's not just the physical, uniqueness of the talents of the individuals. But it's what they do to coalesce and bring together as a unit, a team, a victory that will lead to a championship. And I was reading what Steve Kerr was saying, what the Warriors were saying to themselves after Game 6. They had a meeting, and Draymond Green, who I kind of dislike because, he's a hothead. Think about the team, Draymond. And then Curry and Jimmy Butler, they all stood before the team. think Friday night before game 7. And Draymond, to his credit, said, "Hey, I blame myself. I'm sorry. I'm going to be cooler. I'm not going to lose my head." And he was cooler. There were some times when he almost lost it on Sunday. And Stephen Curry said, "I'm going to take care of the ball. I'm not going to be lackadaisical." How many times do you curse Curry because he's so cool and loose and throws the ball away? And Jimmy Butler, he's the coolest of them all. But he knows what he has to do. I liked what he said after the Game 6 loss to the TV reporter. He said, "Hey, things didn't go our way, but on Game 7, we're going to make things go our way." And they did. And those kind of talks that they did after Game 6 to each other, when you hear your teammates say that the confessions of your teammates, and that's what sports is about. That game was won there. Game 7 was won there. Because you know your teammates have your back. And Buddy Hield. Man, Buddy Hield shows up, my God. 9 3-pointers. All right, so now they play the Timberwolves, and everyone's saying, "Oh, the Timberwolves, they've got Anthony Edwards and Ant-Man." And here's the thing people forget. Warriors are a different team when they beat the Timberwolves 3-1 during the regular season. They played them in January, they played them in December, and the Warriors beat them 3-1. The Timberwolves are different too. But the Warriors have Jimmy Butler now, and the Warriors are better, and the Warriors know how to win. And I think the game will go 7. The Warriors are still shorter. They're not tall at all. Ant-Man is hot, but just like the Warriors beat the Rockets in the regular season, those kind of victories early, you know you can beat this team, and you're not going to let it happen when it really means something. You're not going to let them beat you when it really happens. So I say Warriors in 7, and I'm going to try to root in the privacy of my own home so no one sees what a fanatic I actually am. But like I said, there's a reason why we do it. It's because we learn from these marvels of athleticism. We learn from teams that come together and become champions. It's a life lesson, and it's a worthy life lesson. All right, now I hope Donald Trump is watching the NBA. Somehow I doubt it. He's not really athletic. He's kind of like, a bumbler. "Hey, I'm a big guy. He's not very athletic. Hey, my bone spurs got me out of the Army." But he said some things this weekend that are worth noting. And one of the first things is, where should we start? Well, the Pope thing. Donald Trump dressing up as the Pope. It made me think of, Prince's song. "You can be the president. I'd rather be the Pope. You can be the side effect. I'd rather be the dope of the Pope." Say that Pope. That was Prince's from B-sides. Great album. All the songs of Prince that you don't, that you don't know. But the Pope, oh my God. So anyway, maybe Donald Trump, put on his Walkman and heard Prince's The Pope. I think it is sacrilegious. I think he needs to know that he's the president. That's the biggest thing about Donald Trump. He doesn't realize he's the president, and everything he says is taken seriously. So when he goes out there and someone puts out a picture of him in Pope drag, looking like, the Pope, it's sacrilegious. And he's a world leader. He should know better. But he doesn't, unfortunately. He should know better. So more on the Pope later this week because the conclave's coming up. But Donald Trump said something else. He was asked a number of times, not to be biblical about it, but at least 3 times. Don't you know about it's your role to uphold the Constitution? Don't you defend the Constitution? And he denied it 3 times, at least. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I got good lawyers. I don't know. I mean, he was asked about that in terms of, what the Supreme Court said about Kilmar Abrego Garcia and should he be sent back. And the Supreme Court said yes. And Kristen Welker on NBC, Meet the Press, asked him, well, aren't you there to defend the Constitution? And he said, I don't know. This is how you know we are on the downhill slope toward autocracy. It's happening. If you doubt it, listen to how many times Donald Trump says no. He says no because we are going downward toward autocracy. And then, just saying, I don't know. He's the guy, he's taken the oath twice. Read what the oath is about. I'm there to protect, defend the Constitution. He doesn't see it as his role. That's a man who shouldn't be president. A man who shouldn't be president. Now, he said some other crazy things this weekend. Actually, 2 things he said, one today and one yesterday. He said that what did he say? Well, let's take the thing he said. First of all, he said movies should be made only in America, which is tough. I mean, if everything was made in America, you wouldn't have The Simpsons. Well, you got animation from Asia. Some movies are funded by foreign money, but actually made. And is he talking about foreign films? Like, would we have the French New Wave coming into art houses? If, are there going to be tariffs on those films? And I guess that means that we're going to have to see them online instead of in the art house. Remember the 60s and 70s, the French New Wave, Godard, Truffaut, Fellini, the Italians. I mean, we wouldn't have art films. We wouldn't be able to see art films. Maybe. Who knows what Donald Trump means. But if he means something like animation, you can't outsource the animation to Asia. Well, there's a reason why they do that. And I think even Disney's doing that. It's too expensive here. So, but there are some things that should be made in America, but I mean, like I bought some Tupperware. I use a generic name. Tupperware is a generic name. It's not Tupperware, it's something else. But on the plastic, it said made in the USA. We got to be in a made in the USA, kind of thing now. I'd like everything to be made in the USA. But I bet you even this jacket I'm wearing here is made in China. I know. I just think that what he said about the movies, it's going to be hard for movies to be totally made in the USA. Tyler Perry movies, I think, are totally made in the USA. I'm going to see Ryan Coogler's Sinners. I think that was made in the USA. But all right, so that's what Trump said about movies. The other thing he said, he talked about Alcatraz. He wants Alcatraz to be reset. I think what Donald Trump is doing, he wants to gentrify Alcatraz and set up a Trump Tower in Alcatraz. Because what place could house a convicted felon, Donald Trump, 34 counts, but a refurbished, gentrified Alcatraz? I think that's what he's going to do. The other thing that he said today that I think would concern Asian Americans, he said he's willing to give $1,000 to everyone who self-deports. $1,000. Well, if you think about it, that's 50,000 pesos in the Philippines. If you were TNT, Tago ng Tago, hiding on a extended visa, $1,000? 50,000 pesos in the Philippines? Maybe that would lure you. But I will say this, because during my father's time in the 20s and 30s, they offered Filipinos the right to self-deport when Filipinos were getting in everybody's hair, and no one liked the Filipinos. Back in the 30s, forget about immigrants. The immigrants that were of concern were the Filipinos because they were our colonized country. And they didn't like them. They wanted to send them back. Because the truth is, the Filipinos were sleeping with the white women, which I think the white women liked. So what the hell, right? So they were offering the Filipinos to self-deport, but most of them didn't do it. And you know why? Because to go back to the Philippines after you've left and come here to seek your fortune was an admission that would bring shame. Shame to the individual, shame to the family. People didn't do it. But I think what's interesting is that Donald Trump is doing all these things that they've done in the past. Self-deport. Yeah, we'll give you $1,000 if you just remove yourself. But it shows it's kind of an act of desperation. It's just a stunt. And as you see, it's just all these things that Donald Trump does. And we've talked about sports here. He's just flooding the zone because the real issue we want to talk about is what about these damn tariffs? I mean, Tariff Man is out there with all these tariffs, and there's no deals. He says there's going to be a deal. The only deal that seems imminent is that because of what Donald Trump is doing, there's going to be a recession. And Donald Trump always talks about, short-term pain. We're going to have short-term pain. But in the poker game of tariffs, he said, I'll see $2 and I'll raise you 5 pencils. Because, you don't need 250 pencils, 5 pencils. You can have 5. He said pencils. I know why he said pencils. 5 pencils sounds like a lot to me. But he said he could 5 pencils instead of 250. You can have $2 instead of $30. So the new rhetoric level from the weekend. I don't know. Donald Trump doesn't see that he sounds Scrooge-ish. He sounds like, well, what if I told him, Mar-a-Lago doesn't need another extension or another wing built? Or how about this? The White House doesn't need a ballroom. Live without a ballroom. I mean, Donald Trump is Mr. Conspicuous Consumption. You don't need another wife. It's like another... I just think that Donald Trump is blowing it with the American people because the American people just want to see if he's real in terms of a deal with these 17, 18 countries. But it looks like he's not. It looks like we're going to have tariffs and we're going to have economic pain. And why the people voted for him in the first place was because he was going to bring down prices. And is he going to bring down prices? No, he's going to bring down the economy. And that's not what we wanted. All right, so I talked about Stephen and self-deport and Alcatraz and Trump, the Dubs, Stephen Curry, Stephen Guillermo. I talked about the Marsh. Yeah, the Marsh. I'm going to be at the Marsh on the 12th, next Monday. 7 o'clock, doors open at 6:30. Get your tickets. Get them on the Marsh, the Monday Night Marsh. I'm just opening. I'm doing like 5 to 8 minutes opening. You see parts of my new show that I'm going to toss in there. Doing it Monday the 12th, and then again 7 days later, Monday the 19th. And 3 other folks appearing on the bill, filling out the night. It's a great way to spend a Monday night. It really is. It really is, especially in May. Maybe I'll tell a story about Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Maybe. But I'll tell stories. I'll get up there, warm you up, make you feel good, make you smile. And for updates, just check amok.com and check here. Amok.com is my website, but also check here. Check here. I ought to put it in here. Put in here because my website's working again. Well, it wasn't because it was, I don't know, the internet. Squirrels, internet squirrels. All right, that's it for our show today. Hey, thank you for listening. Sending out the clips, and if you missed any or all of this, catch it on Emil Amok 1, YouTube at Emil Amok 1, on Facebook. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Yeah, Twitter at Emil Amok, EMILAMOK. All right, that's it for our show. I like to leave on an up note. Meditation, loving kindness, meditation. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. I'm telling you, Dubs, 7 games, Timberwolves, they're going to get them. They're going to get them. I mean, just rewind, get my explanation. They're going to get them. They're going to get them. Till next time, Emil Guillermo here. Mahal Kita.